you talked about writing that album during COVID, but another thing that you did during COVID, maybe this was your father's pastoral side coming out.
Yeah.
You would do these Instagram devotions.
Yeah.
What made you want to do stuff like that?
Well, I don't mind God's workshop sometimes, not just the devil's workshop. So I had time as if I had time at home a lot, no wife, no kids, so I could write music and do this. I had time, I had time to fill up, And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna start sharing my devotional times with people, just to do it.
Yeah.
And I need to continue to. But I got caught up in the business again, and it's hard to get them out there.
Mm-hmm. It's a different headspace.
It's a different headspace.
It is.
It totally is, yeah. But it was fun being a Josh for a minute, because it's like I had to study up and make sure I don't say anything, say the right thing and make it, lovingly delivered and but impactful, not just flowery words like, oh, God loves you, and da da da. And He does, but there's also a cost that comes with that,
Yeah.
And,
well, there's a responsibility in it.
Yes.
And I think that if you're doing it right, you pay attention to the responsibility of it, as opposed to just have it being words.
Yeah. And we have an audience. We have 700,000 people following stuff. I want to speak to our Instagram listeners and Facebook people, and just love on them. And that was the time we do, because we were all, and plus, I think the time we were in motivated me too a lot.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like Tate's too. You're that kind of guy. Like, you're always like, you go up in the back of the bus. Tate's always he got his Bible open. He's reading something. There's like Tony Evans' sermon going, and maybe a couple songs singing. Tate's always trying to be filled up. And I think you were just sharing stuff that was like in your heart and sharing. Like, we get excited about the things that we learn about, and you want to share that with other people. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and the best.
That's why that's big motivation. You just said it. I was like, this is too good,
because it blows your mind.
Yeah,
so you're like, oh, you guys got to hear this. This is amazing.
Done.
Yeah.
Said well.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
the best preaching comes from a place of overflow.
Yeah.
So it's not when you're trying to go, what should I even talk about? It's from, man, I got so much being poured into me right now that I need
100%.
That's where that comes from, right?
I think that's good.
Yeah. So that's one thing for myself in my preaching that I've really tried to focus on is to keep filling up the bucket.
Yeah, because you're empty. What are you going to do? Mm-hmm. Exactly. What are you going to put out?
And then that it just naturally comes out.
Reminds me of the example in the Bible where a preacher once. I love this when God told the boys to cast a net against for fishing. Got so many fish that the overflow filled. In other words. So God bless you so much so you can bless your friends.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yes.
So why not share that, this overflow of the fish and of the goodness?
Yeah. And I know, you guys do have a big following there. And I watched a lot of those devotions that you did, So even pastors and people.
Was that right?
Man, it was good stuff. Okay. It kept bringing me back. Okay. It was magnetic. So that was just something that what I appreciated so much is, especially in the Christian music industry right now, there are so many. Listen, how do I say this nicely? There are even bands and musicians and people who I knew growing up who've recently even come out and just said, "Hey, I'm not even into that faith anymore. I'm not." Yeah. And it just kind of sent, some people going, "Man, are these guys who I'm listening? Do they even believe what they're singing? Yeah. Do they,
Yeah.
And so to see you doing that really spoke to me even more, because you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But you did.
That's why I broke the stand record down that one time. I did every song. I messed with every song, tried to, And so I don't know, how does that make you guys feel? Like, as you see that kind of going on in the industry, and we talked about you guys were industry friends. When you see, somebody who maybe was in the industry and they go, "Hey, I'm not on that page anymore." What does that do? Like Jeff had one.
Yeah, I mean, it's you feel a variety of emotions. Honestly, you can't really pin it down to one thing, because I think we both have seen, and probably you with pastors and stuff. I mean, people that we knew were solidly, on fire for the Lord and had a calling and a vision, and just like walk away from the faith completely.
It's frustrating. It's depressing. It's upsetting.
It's tough. It's
confusing.
It's confusing, and I think the Bible kind of predicted it, that this would happen. You know, like, I think people leave for different reasons. I think that for some, it's like they see the culture out there and how it's changing and going in one way, and they see where Christianity is, and they realize, if I want to maintain myself as a Christian, I'm never going to be able to fit in with this culture. So I'm not even going to try anymore because I have too many friends that are already leaving and they're being a part of the culture. You know, like it's a narrow road, right? You know, and I think the road keeps getting narrower as culture keeps getting scarier.
100%.
And I think it scares a lot of Christians too. They're like, I'm jumping out of this because I'm going to just like enjoy the rest of my life, or I'm scared of the commitment or what it's going to cost me.
Yeah.
Or my friends aren't going to think I'm cool anymore, or I'm not going to be relevant anymore, or it's just the sacrifice is too much. It's easier to let all those people praise you for leaving the faith. You know, as soon as you leave the faith, there's people that, oh, you're so brave. And for me, I'm like, I think the braver thing is to stay committed to where you were.
Oh, dude.
You know, like
You are
that's the
hitting
harder thing. But at the same time, I feel compassionate towards those people because I think as Christians, we all have times where we doubt and we wonder, and you all have those deep things.
Doubt.
We've all been in deep places. But I know for myself personally, there's just too many things in my life that are been right in front of my face where I can't deny that there was a reason for that happening, like we've talked about. And I think that when I see people walk away, it makes me sad. And we've seen quite a few, and I think we're going to see even more. I think I have no doubt about it.
The Bible said, he said,
and it's just predicted. And, you know, it's predicted.
Well, you made me open this Bible because when you said that, man, here's like a couple scriptures. I have a reading plan that I follow just for myself, where I just try to go through a couple chapters each day. And I was in 1 Timothy and went into 2 Timothy. But Paul's writing to Timothy, and he is... Basically, Paul's in a situation where he's under arrest. He's kind of writing his last deal to Timothy to encourage him. Hey, listen, soon I'm going to be gone. And so when I'm gone, here's what I need you to know. And he says in chapter 4, this is verse 1 and 2, now the Spirit expressly says that in later times some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceitful spirits and teaching of demons, through the insincerity of liars whose consciences are seared. And he kind of unpacks that even more as he continues to go on in these letters. And he really wants him to know, like, listen, man, when I'm gone, you need to know the people who are following with you, they're going to start to fall away. Yeah. And he says to him at the end in verse 20 of chapter 6, he goes, "O Timothy," like this is his last line. "O Timothy, guard the deposit entrusted to you. Avoid the irreverent babble and contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge." He's like saying to him, listen, everyone's going to start falling away because they think there's something more.
Right.
They think this is wrong.
Right.
They got into it, and then when they got into it and hardship happened, or it didn't go the way they wanted, or something caused problems, they think there must be something more out there, and I'm going to walk away from this. And he's saying to Timothy, guard it.
It didn't deliver.
Yeah. Please guard the deposit I've made into you. And I just it blew my mind in that sense. And in ministry, I say we, because we see this all the time. Yeah. Because when you guys know this, when the curtain gets pulled back, and you see the reality of things, it is so easy to go, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
Well, and it's our gut feeling is to run from those feelings of commitment or whatever. Usually when I've talked to people who left the faith, usually comes down to a bad experience with other Christians at some point in their life,
or their pastor,
or their childhood, or their pastor, or their youth group, or something that I can usually attribute to, people, humans who make mistakes, and it's usually lurking in there somewhere, and so. It's tough. But still, I would say with Tait and I, the friends that we know that have fallen away, we're still in contact with. We still love. That's the one thing I think is interesting. Now it's like, so you've got like the gospel and Christians and certain beliefs that are just hard for people who are on the outside to reckon with, and the culture, obviously, like we talked about, is getting so strongly just going in this one direction, and I think the hard part is that. So, like, people think that Christians, just because we live by a different set of standards or beliefs or try to live on this path, and that we might not agree with other cultural things, that they think that Christians hate them. Mm-hmm. They instantly that's the knee-jerk reaction when...
there's more depth to that, too. It's from the other side, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when someone comes to me with a different thing that's like doesn't align with like my Christian beliefs, I don't hate that person because I have a different feeling or a different belief than them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so
They
that's
feel judged.
yeah, and that's what's made it really difficult to reach people, because they think that Christians hate them just because they have a different view of things. But I don't really think that we do. But you really have to go out of your way these days to really love people.
Frankie, I would add too, one of my biggest pet peeves, being a pastor's kid and seeing some of my dad's friends who were other laymen, pastor guys, in churches, like maybe mess up, have an affair or something crazy.
Yeah.
In the church, people were like, well, Pat, so I'm done. Well, let me just say this to you. Nothing upsets me more than when they say, look at that guy, he messed up. Well, it turns out, honey, that guy is fallible. No excuse, it's a fact. Mm-hmm. And too much is given, much is required, true enough. But we're still not God. We'll never be God. We're far from God.
Yeah.
In that sense, our hearts are close. And thank God for salvation. But the fact is, Josh, it's like people are going to let you down.
Yeah.
Over and over again. So don't say, well, he didn't. No, what did God do? God saved you. Mm-hmm. He made a mistake. He's in your life, yeah. But we can't look at men to be our wherewithal, because it'll never happen. They'll fail you every single time. It's just the way it is.
And it hurts.
It hurts.
It hurts. But I think...
And I can see how people like, little Suze, who's 16 years old, found out that Pastor Joe had an affair with his, with the deacon's wife. Yes, it's devastating.
Yeah.
Might leave the church even.
Yeah.
But don't leave God. God didn't do it.
Yeah. Our faith is in Jesus.
Yeah, our faith is in Jesus.
That's where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's what
so that when inevitably...
But so many people lean on the other side, like, well,
Yeah.
Well, we're
I was in the church, but I heard Pastor took that money, and I'm just,
Yeah.
Well, he ain't got a heaven to put you in a hell to keep you out of. As my grandma would say, That's old black grandma.
That's good.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to happen.